This is the new highly anticipated Cakewalk Sonar from BandLab, or at least a kind of a preview version of it, and I found there's a little bit more to it than just a new UI. Hi folks, I'm Mike, and I hope you're well. Before we dive in, let me get this out of the way. No, I don't know when this product is going to be finally released, and I don't know how much it's going to cost or what the pricing structure is going to be. However, I do believe I've been trying out a version which is very, very close to the product which is going to be released, that being Cakewalk Sonar, of course. Now, you can actually try this out yourself with BandLab membership using something called Backstage Pass, but if you don't want to do that, take a look at the rest of this video. I'm going to be covering most of the new features that they have listed in their documentation, not all of them. Now, this is not going to be a review. I'm just going to show you what I've discovered. But if you'd like to review what you see in the comments down below, it may well be worth doing that, because you never know, the Cakewalk team may be watching. Now, let's dive in with the most obvious thing, the new UI. So apart from a new color scheme and these new 2D flat looking controls, the new UI is actually being drawn in a very different way. Now, I'll spare you the technological details, but the long and the short of it is that it looks quite a lot sharper, especially if you're using a high resolution monitor. And we can see this if we zoom in and compare it to the old Cakewalk by BandLab, which we can see on the right here. I noticed that in particular the fonts look a lot sharper. Some of the thinner lines in between things look quite a bit sharper. But to my surprise, even the track icons, which are bitmaps, also look a little bit sharper. I'm not quite sure why that would be the case, but it definitely is the case. Now, they're using something called enhanced display scaling, and you may find on high resolution monitors when you use old plugins that they don't actually scale very well. They may look quite small. Now, to cure this, they've given you an option with all the plugins. I'll just open one sort of randomly here. This one scales fine, but for demonstration purposes, I'll show you. You can go to the plugin settings and you'll see there's this option here to toggle enhanced display scaling on or off. So that may help you in that situation. Now, if you don't like the sort of overall color scheme here, with this version currently, you do get 7 different themes, which I'll go through a few now. Now, it's important to note here that you can't actually use old custom themes that were created for older versions of Cakewalk, because obviously the screen is being drawn in a completely different way. Now, apart from this new UI refresh, there's a few other things that have been added. One nice small enhancement is the fact that we've now got a spectrum analyzer on every single EQ plot in the console view. This just gives you a really quick and easy to see impression of what's happening frequency wise with every single track in your session. Now, if you don't happen to see this when you first install it, just go up to options, then go down to EQ and plot, and then go down to where it says show spectrum analyzer and make sure that is toggled on. Now, I also found, and I don't know whether this is a feature, a bug, or user error, but I found that I had to make at least one small EQ move of some kind for this to become active. One thing that was missing from Cakewalk by BandLab but sees a kind of a return here in Cakewalk Sonar is the concrete limiter. We can see it working away here. A nice brick wall limiter, really handy if you just want to quickly make things quite a lot louder or a little bit louder without them clipping. Talking of the return of old things, we see a return of Session Drummer 3 with Cakewalk Sonar, and I rate this quite highly compared to the SI drum kit, which came with Cakewalk by BandLab. If for no other reason than you can easily output each of these drums to separate channels in your main console view here. So if I switch over to the mixer in the actual drum plugin, you can see that I can control which output or which channel of the console I send that particular drum to. That means you can create a mix in the console view with your drum kit without having to go into the plugin itself, and I much prefer that as a workflow. Now, you can either go ahead and create your own drum beats like I have here. Have a quick listen. or you can make use of the many drum grooves or patterns that you get with this, as well as, I should say, a number of different drum kits as well. Now you can change those drum grooves on the fly in your performance, setting up from A to H here, and you can actually switch between them using key switches, so you can really create drum patterns on the fly really quickly doing that. Let's just have a listen to some here. So there's a whole bunch which come with it. So I'm really happy to see it's returned here in Cakewalk Sonar. Now let's say I wanted to add a reverb effect to just one of these drums, but I want to make use of a bus with all of the advantages that has. Well, you can now do this in a really quick and easy way. You'll notice I have my effects open in the browser on the right hand side. I'm just going to grab this Sonatus reverb and I'm going to drag it all the way across to the send section of my snare drum here. I'll drop it there. You'll see that the send has been created and a new bus has been created all the way over on the right hand side, named after the particular plugin that I had selected, the Sonatus reverb, and you can see that the reverb plugin has opened. So all of that is done in one drag and drop motion. I had hoped that they would add this to this new version of Cakewalk Sonar, and they have. So thank you very much to the development team. Now, in addition to this new routing change, you can also, when you create a new audio track, I'll do that now, just click on this plus button here. If you have this advanced section open here, you can not only send the output to a new bus, which you were able to do in Cakewalk by BandLab, but you can also send it to an auxiliary track or a patch point as well. One simple new feature that I'm glad to see is the addition of start end markers. Now there's a couple of different ways that you can actually create them. I'll just show you one here. I'm just going to make a selection right at the top from the beginning through to roughly the end of my song. Now I'm going to right click on the ruler and then go down to set project start end markers to selection. I'll just get rid of my selection there so you can clearly see at the beginning in green there is my start marker, and at the end in red is the end marker. Now if I click this little button to return to the beginning, it will actually go to that start marker there. Yeah, if you really want to go back to the beginning of time in Cakewalk, I should say, click on that again and it will go back to the beginning of the ruler there. Click on the other icon here and then it's going to go to the end marker. Not only that, but if you happen to be playing the end of the song there, it will automatically stop at the end marker. Let's try that. And you saw it stop there. If you go up to exporting your song now and click on advanced here, you'll see down here where you select the range that the start and end times are indicated here via those markers. So obviously in my project I've got a number of different instruments and a number of different types of instruments. Some are audio recordings, some are MIDI instruments. And often I just want to see a little subset of my tracks. And I can easily do that now using some enhancements to the track manager. Now, the track manager is an existing feature so that you can show and hide certain tracks. But let me show you how we can do it using this new icon up here. If I long press on this, you can see some presets that I've already made. You can go here to show particular things, different types of tracks, and you can go to the track manager. I won't show you that now, and make some custom selections there. But let's say I just want to show guitars. So I'll click on guitars here, and now it's only showing guitars. But often I'll want to also flick back to seeing all of the tracks. So now you can use this icon as a toggle switch to go between just the guitars and all of the tracks like so. If you want to flick between another selection, just long press, I'll just select, say, audio here. It's going to show all of my audio tracks, and I can flick between those and all of my tracks. Now, if you ever use virtual instruments which have a really slow attack, things like strings, then you'll know there can be some timing issues. For example, you can see here that the notes of these strings are perfectly on the grid, so they should be in time. Let's have a listen to them compared to the metronome. And you can hear they're just a little bit after the beat. They feel just a little bit awkward. So if I right click on the articulation I've got here for sustained strings and go to edit articulation maps, and I select my sustained articulation here, then click on this little plus button down here, I can add a transform for existing MIDI events. And in here you can see a setting for offset. So I can actually offset when this note actually starts as opposed to where it's shown on the grid. So let's do a silly setting, okay? Let's do -500, and not -500 ticks, but -500 milliseconds. It's going to be well early, but at least you'll be able to hear it. And I'm also going to click on this box. This is for duration because I want the duration of the event to be affected as well. So I'll click on that and click on OK. Let's have a listen compared to the metronome now. So you can hear that we can hear the notes well before they're actually shown here on the grid. So let's just correct that and make it something a bit more sensible here. I'm going to try -140 milliseconds. Okay, click on OK. It might not be exactly right, but it should be much better than it was before. Let's have a listen. Now, what's the advantage of this rather than just sort of dragging your notes around so that they're in a different place? Well, it means that you can use things like quantize features, and when you're doing score editing, you can have the notes in the correct place, exactly where they should be, although they'll actually come in a little bit early. Or late if you want them to. We now have some automation smoothing options. Let's just go ahead and record some automation on this strings track. And you can see there's many little nodes here in this automation. And that's because if we go up to options and go to automation smoothing, we can see the current setting is as drawn in a linear way. Let's change that to smooth. Okay, we'll undo the automation we had there and record some automation again. And now you can see there's far fewer nodes, but we're pretty much getting the same effect. And this is much more manageable. We can sort of drag these points around and make manual adjustments to our automation. There may be times that you want to save or load your current hardware configuration. It could be that you swap between hardware and you have specific settings that you want to set up, or it could be that you want to use this configuration, say, on another machine, for example. Whatever you want to use this feature for, it's easily done. You just go to preferences. I'm going to press P on the keyboard to do that. Go all the way down to the bottom there, back up and restore settings. You can see which things or which settings this would include with these checkboxes here. Give it a description and you can save or restore settings in this way. And by the way, you can use these configuration files along with shortcuts on your desktop so that you can immediately load Cakewalk Sonar up with a specific configuration. If you go to the file menu in Cakewalk Sonar and go down to save as, it brings up a dialog box, of course. Now under the save as type, you will see a new type there, Cakewalk Zip. Now this is very similar to the old Cakewalk bundle file that we can see next to it. With these files we can save everything we've got into one file, which is more easily transportable between systems. It can unpack it all and then load it into a new session. The advantage with the new Cakewalk Zip file format is that it keeps audio snap clips intact. The old bundle files didn't. So this is the preferred method of saving this type of compiled file moving forward. Now if we go up to the file menu again and go down to the export option, we can see a new option down here, and that is Cakewalk Interchange. This is a new type of file so that you can save your project with another DAW. But I'm talking about one DAW in particular, and that is Cakewalk Next. But that, my friends, is for another video. Remember, this is a brand new channel, and in order for it to be sustainable, I really need you to like, comment, and subscribe. Do that right now for me, please, and then we can grow this marvelous community. Thank you so much. Let me know what you think about the new Cakewalk Sonar in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next video.